Yeah.
But what's going on right now is FinCEN just issued a notice out today stating that BOIs are back and you've got 30 days to comply. We're going to dig into that.
Yeah, so let's go over the actual notice. You've got FinCEN extends beneficial ownership information reporting deadline by 30 days. It was dead, and now they're like, no.
Or hiding it behind it and ripping people off on the web, phone calls, whatever. The government's like, this has got to stop. So what they said was, if we have everybody that has an entity must register and show who really owns it and who really controls it, we can weed out all the bad actors, I hope. And if anybody doesn't report, we have a bigger hammer to hit them over the head with, $500 a day. So this is another way of kind of going after, let's say, the Al Capones of the world that were bad guys back in the 20s, killing people or whatever. They went after them for tax evasion. So this is a way for the government to go after bad actors with oh, you're not going to file your LLC properly? Well, we'll put you in jail for that at least, because that's easier to prove. So they're trying to find another way to go after bad actors. Do you buy into it, Matt?
I just think
You're going after everybody. So you're going after the people who got these LLCs set up for their go-kart companies or their artwork companies or these companies that are just maybe not making a lot of money. And these people are just like, yeah, we have the LLC just in case. But we're not really focused on this business world and what you all are doing with the BOI report. And so you're going to be catching a lot of these people that are like doing nothing wrong. And that's the issue with it. And so there's got to be a better way to try to get some of these, as they're saying, these tax evasion people. It's like, well, we're going to, Al Capone you. It's like, we're going to get you for tax evasion because we can't get you on the real thing. We know you're in trouble for that. It's like, well, a lot of these people are not in trouble. It seems very different to me.
then require every freaking small business owner to go in and file this.
Okay,
now,
Elliot Ness.
Yeah. Now here, let me say this on the policy side, because this was a big issue as we were looking at this and the cases were going back and forth. A lot of people thought, I'll just wait till Trump gets in and his Treasury Department's in. They're not going to enforce this. Well, this is his Treasury Department. This is their notice saying, we're doing this, guys. And they do think that there's abuse. So if you were betting on not having to do the BOI because you thought Trump was not going to make you do it as a small business owner, I hate to say it, you're going to have to do it.
In order staying the FinCEN regulations implementing the BOI reporting requirements, precluding FinCEN from requiring BOI reporting or otherwise infringing the CTA's requirements. What does that mean? You didn't have to file it. Now you do. So on February 2025, the U.S. Department of Justice on behalf of the Treasury filed an appeal of the district court's order, and the appeal stayed that order. So allowing them to essentially continue their work, and now they're going to be able to enforce the CTA. Okay, bad for everybody, but that's how it is. On February 18, 2025, the court agreed to stay its January 7, 2025 order until the appeal is completed. So they're going to appeal to the Supreme Court. What's going to happen there? You can have your own guess. In the meantime, we're all having to deal with this. So given this decision, the BOI reporting requirements of the CTA are no longer stayed, thus subject to any applicable court orders. BOI reporting is now mandatory. Unless you're a part of those small group of people or you get an exception to the BOI reporting, you're in. So like almost everybody. And so we all have to deal with this in the next 30 days. Luckily, it's not very onerous. It's pretty easy to do. Everybody that I've heard who's gone through the process has been like, it was so easy. Why are people, complaining about it? It's like, well, yeah, you had one LLC or whatever, and you're not going to have to do much as far as upkeep. But yeah, tracking all your LLCs going forward and complying with this for indefinitely is going to be pretty challenging, especially for the people who are just not professional people at doing this.
Now, here's why. The latest case that got overturned was this case called Smith versus Department of Treasury. This was a federal district court case in Texas. Now, a lot of you might have remembered the Top Cop Shop case that went all the way to the U.S. Supreme Court. And that one, the U.S. Supreme Court overturned and said, BOIs are legal right now. We're not putting this injunction in place. But there's this other case, Smith versus Department of Treasury, sitting down in Texas, that still had an injunction in place. That injunction was just lifted yesterday. So now FinCEN came out and said, there are no more orders preventing us from enforcing the BOI anymore. We're back. You need to file the BOI.
All right. And what does this mean? Some of you might be thinking, what the hell are you talking about? Okay. The BOI is called the Business Owner Information Report. It is being enforced by FinCEN, which is the Financial Crimes Enforcement Network, which is the sister to the IRS, if you will, or the brother. I'm not sure which is the sister brother. Now, if you're a business owner with an LLC or a corporation, 99% of you, we're going to talk about this a little bit more for a moment, but 99% of you, of the owners of an LLC or a corporation in America as a small business owner, have to file this report. Now, it's not hard. It's a little invasive privacy-wise for many of you. You're going to hate it, maybe, but we've been helping our clients file this over the last 6 months. Essentially, people were preparing to do this when the first deadline was the end of the year. And then it was on and off because different people have been suing the government saying, I don't want to do this. So it's back on. It is required. And when's the deadline, Matt? The business owners must file this.
Yeah, the new deadline, they gave you a 30-day deadline from February 19th. So I guess we're looking at March 19th here. Or actually, sorry, they're giving you to March 21st, 2025.
With one caveat to that, which is potentially another extension, but we'll cover that in this video.
Your prior reporting deadline has already passed. Now, the prior reporting deadline, if you had an entity set up before 2024, before January 1st, 2024, you had until December 31st, 2024 to file your BOI. Well, that deadline went off the table because of these injunctions that are now all of them removed. There's no more injunctions that you can rely on. You have to file this now. I want to make sure you understand what we're saying here. There's a requirement. You have to file. There's no case right now. There's a pending order that says you cannot file this.
Yeah.
There's a pending case still in the Supreme Court, and they could overturn this later, but they're not giving you a pass on that.
Now, that being said, you need to file it. Okay, there's nothing out there that says you don't have to file this. There's no injunctions going back and forth. And I don't even know if there are anything that could possibly come up that could be an injunction, barring the Supreme Court. Now, the issue with the Supreme Court is they're busy. They do a lot. And the likelihood of the Supreme Court getting to this in 30 days, I don't know, unless there's some kind of emergency thing that happens. But yeah, it could be a situation where the Supreme Court gets to this way down the road. So, if you haven't done it or not, you have to make the decision for yourself. I'm not here to say whether or not you should or shouldn't. What I'm going to do is I'm going to get pretty close to that deadline and I'm going to file. But that's up to you. And as far as what you think is right, if you do it already, you'd be with a majority of the people probably who've already complied with this who are going to comply. Some people are just not going to comply ever. And you don't want to be one of those people.
So you still got to file. You've got 30 days till March 21st, 2025 to file this BOI.
Okay. Now the penalties are serious if you don't. Could even include jail time. But what's the daily penalty now?
It's over $500 a day.
Yeah.
For failure to file.
Yeah,
this.
it's brutal. And so let's back up. Maybe we've got your attention now. Whew. I know it's a lot to digest.
Because I've had people comment in my videos like, I just decided not to start an LLC because of this. And that's so sad to me. That's just terrible that you could have some kind of a life-changing thing where you start a business and do something great for your family. And this is between you and that, and yeah, it's unfortunate. So, we're here for you if you want to, you got questions about it or you're concerned about this. I can provide general information on this type of, the reporting requirements and all that. It's just a situation where, you're going to have to do it. It's unfortunately going to substantially make people not want to do it because they're afraid of this. They're afraid of the jail time. They're afraid of the penalties, and maybe they'll accomplish their goal and maybe we'll get rid of this at some point.
If you really want that roller coaster ride, you can look at a lot of, especially Matt, you've been doing some great videos live on your YouTube. And you could read article after article. But the bottom line point is, as of today, February 19th, 2025, the federal government is requiring every small business owner. We'll give you a few exceptions that might apply to you. And I say might very loosely. I feel 99% of small business owners are having to deal with this. You have to file this report. You can do it yourself. You can go to the FinCEN website, fill it out. We'll tell you what generally needs to be on it. Or we have been providing this service through our law firm or Main Street Business Services. We have 2 different business entities to help clients set up new entities with a lawyer.
Right, so you can report to FinCEN free of charge. They're not even going to charge you. Using FinCEN's e-filing system, https://BOIE filing.fincen.gov, and you can get more information at fincen.gov/boi.
You have to set up your entity with us in our law firm, but if you have an LLC laying around or a corporation, this is the time to clean it up and either dissolve it or get this filed and get compliant or face these major penalties. So we've got a link down below for Main Street Business Services. You can call on the phone. Boom. We're talking $200. Plus, we're going to help you do your minutes. Make sure you're good with your state anyway. Guys, this is a blessing in disguise to get your entity tidied up. So we're there for you with the link there down below. You can call us, talk to one of our paralegals. They'll be on the phone with you in seconds, help you get this done. You can go do it yourself. Not terribly expensive, but terrible if you don't.
Yeah, it's super straightforward. Everybody that I said who has set theirs up, who I've talked to, has said it was super easy. It takes like a couple minutes. So try to do it yourself. Seriously, save yourself a couple $100 or whatever it is for somebody else to do it. They're just going to do it on your behalf. And, all this information you're going to have very likely right off the top of your head. So in the other information, like your attorney or your CPA or whatever who's doing it for you, they're not going to have your passport. They're not going to have your driver's license. You're going to have to provide all that to them. You might as well just provide it to FinCEN.
Yeah, and we've done thousands of these for clients. It is not the end of the world. Like Mark said, it's a little bit of an invasion of privacy. But here's what's going to go on this beneficial ownership report, or BOI. You are going to put the name of the business, the tax ID and EIN, and then you're going to list two different groups of people that are involved in the business. First group is anyone that owns 25% or more. That person has to be listed on the BOI. The second group,
With their home address.
with their home address. Now, you don't include their social, but you do have to include their government issued ID, passport or a driver's license or state ID needs to be uploaded onto this thing. That's the biggest probably pain in the butt.
Yeah. And think of your grandma that may own an LLC, but you're the manager. Grandma. And let me repeat, anybody that owns it. Well, my trust owns it. Then whoever's the owner, the beneficial trustee or beneficiary of that trust. If you have a revocable living trust, you have to look through that to the owner of the trust, if you will, as the owner of the LLC. Well, my corporation owns my LLC. Then we got to look at the owner of the corporation that owns the LLC. You can't hide behind another entity or behind a trust. The government wants to know who owns this. We're talking policy and why they're doing this later. So that's the owner. So that's the first group. Owner or who the beneficial owner is. See that keyword?
And we're peeling back all the way down until there's a person that owns 25% or more at the end of the day. So it is your revocable living trust, you and your spouse that are the beneficiaries of it during your lifetime, which is the most common. You two are both own effectively 50%. You two are listed as beneficial owners. Now, the second group would be anyone who has substantial control of the business. Now, in your example earlier with grandma's LLC for her rental property, that you're the manager of the LLC. Well, grandma's being listed as the 25% or more beneficial owner. She owns it 100%. You're listed because you have substantial control as the manager of the LLC. So managers of the LLCs or presidents of corporations or officers in companies and corporations, they have substantial control and they need to be listed as well.
And that's their home address and their governmental issued ID. So that would be that quote unquote, maybe invasion of your privacy. Let's digress for one moment too. Can we talk policy? Because some of you are like getting pissed. You're like, what the hell? Why are we having to do this? The theory was, now this is theory, Matt and I like to debate this. I'm probably a little more optimistic and hopeful that this may help. But basically the Democrats and the Republicans in a bipartisan bill about 3 years ago said, we are sick and tired of money launderers, child traffickers, drug dealers, scam artists hiding behind LLCs that they set up in Florida or Wyoming on a Monday, rip someone off on a Tuesday, and then shut down the entity or just disappear on Wednesday. It's this LLC thing has been abused. The corporation thing's been abused.
Or transfer it to 30 other LLCs and go back and forth between each one and never report any of those transfers on taxes. They're making this onerous enough to where if you have to report this 30 times and keep track of each one of these entities for 30 different entities, those better be legitimate entities if you're going to have to do this. So I see maybe it will help for people that are doing that, but people who are have one LLC, I guess that's what he's talking about. Like you just start one LLC up, you rip somebody off and you close the entity and nobody knows the beneficial owner. That's news to me, but if people are doing that and that's what they're going to be trying to stop, there's gotta be a better way to do that than this. Right. I'm just like, okay, I guess the issue are the Wyoming and the, I guess maybe Nevada or Delaware LLCs. Maybe they need to specifically have some rules tailored to those specific people setting up those specific LLCs. God forbid, right? I mean, that would just make too much sense.
This is this public filing. So let's get back to some policy things, because I think a lot of people are like, this is a privacy issue. I don't want to give all this stuff to the federal government. I set up my entity with the state. Entities are at the state level and I give the state the information. I also got to give it to the federal government. What for? It's not a federal entity. So, but here's where that information is going. It's going to FinCEN and it is not a public searchable database. Okay.
Yeah, but the issue with that is you don't give your passport to the state entity or your driver's license for the state entity. You're just assuming they already have that information because you live in the state and you're giving it to the state. So this is an additional thing above and beyond what you're typically doing.
No one can go look up your entity on FinCEN to see who owns it. This is a private. This is held by the government. They can't even share it with state or other government agencies without a subpoena.
Yeah.
So it is not publicly available. You still are providing it to the government, of course. So that's where this information is going. And then presumably the government is then taking that to make sure they understand who owns what entities. And if they're tracking a money laundering case or something like that, they can see who owns it or find the ones that just aren't complying and aren't doing anything and go chase those down because they must be doing something wrong.
Yeah. And I would, another way of looking at this, as I said at the beginning, this is the brother or sister to the IRS, which it truly is. It's in the same department, if you will, under the Treasury. So I would want you to feel like your tax return is private. Your tax return cannot go out on the web unless you're the one that shares it. And this is the same concept. So it's going to be tied up in the Treasury Department in a vault somewhere where they're going to start sorting through the ones that didn't file and say, oh my gosh, this is probably a bad actor. And estimates are now that we have over 40 million LLCs in the country. Now, here's some of the exceptions.
That's a lot.
Quickly.
Yes.
If you have more than 25 employees and how much
5 million revenue,
5 million in revenue, you don't need to file. 25 employees, 5 million in gross revenue, you don't need to file. Reason being is they already know who you are. If you've got 5 million in revenue and 25 employees, they know who you are.
and that assumes you're doing a payroll report on your employees and you're filing a federal tax return, which you would be.
Yeah.
So they're like, you're on our radar.
Yeah. Now, if you have not had any activity in an entity, you may think you're off the hook. But Matt, I'll ask you to give us the date here. But you may say, well, I set up this LLC years ago, or I set it up last year and I'm not even using it.
Sold it. There's nothing going on. You still got to.
Yep. Too
So,
late.
yeah.
Now, this is a little recommendation here from 2 tax lawyers that have done 10,000 consultations each, helping small business owners. If I may, I know you may not want to hear it this way. The blessing in disguise here is this is a chance to clean house. This is time to empty out the junk drawer. You got this junk drawer full of entities and bank accounts, and you're like, you know what? I needed to get rid of this entity anyway. Now I need to set it up since 2021. Even if I haven't used it, you need to go dissolve it and file the BOI report. Check that box. You're clean. But it's a chance, again, to get rid of it. You may have a bank account associated with it. These entities oftentimes have annual renewal fees with the state. So just get rid of it. If you set it up before 2021 and you truly haven't touched it, fine, leave it alone, I guess. But if you anything's out there, I'd recommend this is a time to do an accounting, do an audit of all of the companies you've set up in the last 10 years and just see where they stand. Go to the state website, do a quick search,
Yeah. And I think also for any of you that are just setting up new entities now, or maybe even this year, I mean, used to be you had 90 days to file this. Well, now you got 30 actually. The new deadline for 2025, just so you know, if you're just setting up entities now, is you got a 30-day deadline after formation to get your BOI filed. And so this is a new thing we've already been doing in our law firm for our new clients we're setting up entities for across.
Yeah, and if you have a bunch of these to set up, like 40 million LLCs, 40 million LLCs, that is a lot of LLCs. If you're one of those people, you got 30 LLCs set up and half of them aren't doing nothing. Well, yeah, I guess this is the time to scrap those LLCs and because you probably shouldn't have those LLCs out there anyways if they're just sitting there and they're inactive, or you set them up and you never went through on the business. I mean, yeah, time to dissolve them. You're paying for them, like that, or you're gonna get administratively dissolved or some. I guess that depends on the state too. Some states do and some states don't. My state is like they'll just administratively dissolve it and you won't have your LLC.
Across the country, we're doing 500 entities a month, and as Mark said, also at Main Street Business Services, where we do compliance for clients, we've already filed thousands of these. I've done over a dozen on my own entities of BOIs. So don't be scared of it. I know a lot of people are like probably thinking, I'm just going to wait till that Supreme Court case and see if it gets overturned. You're going to have penalties. Yeah. I mean, you're rolling the dice. I can't tell you as a lawyer that you can rely on that yet. We had this injunction in the Smith case last month, that we're saying there's a legal requirement. You don't have to file it. There's an injunction against FinCEN to enforce it. That is gone now.
Now, here's another recommendation. I'm a glass half full kind of guy. You can tell Matt's glass half empty, but a glass half full.
Well, I'm a little thirsty.
Yeah. Okay, drink your water over there. Okay, now here's another idea that may resonate and help you through this process. At our law firm, as Matt mentioned, we love to do what we call a comprehensive consultation. We build what's called a trifecta. We know that clients that are organized make more money. Clients that are organized are happier. They are more successful. They save money. Deep down, you know this. So if BOI and the FinCEN is asking you to get your crap together, you know what? Bitch and moan, but at the same token, take it as a reminder that you will be more successful by dealing with this. So if you need, which we love, call the law firm and say, hey, let's do an organizational look. Look at my last year's tax return. Look at the entities I have. I'd love a trifecta with a plan. By the way, you probably need to get your estate plan done. You don't even have a will. Let's get organized. When you're organized, you're going to live that American dream more successfully. So take this as an opportunity to kick yourself in the butt and get this stuff done.
I love that. That glass was half full. And let's just end it there. Okay, let's just end it there. We wanted to give you the update. Make sure you knew what was required. This is breaking news coming out of the FinCEN and the courts. And we want to make sure as your source for tax and legal knowledge as we delivered it to you guys as quickly as possible.
However, the Department of the Treasury recognizes the reporting companies may need additional time. Yes, we do. Okay, so what is that additional time? Well, it looks like they're going to extend it by 30 days from February 19th, 2025 for most companies. So it sounds like February, 30 days after that. I'm not going to do the math there, but you can do that. 30 days after February 19th. Notably, in keeping with the Treasury's commitment to reducing regulatory burden on businesses during the 30-day period, FinCEN will assess its options to further modify deadlines. So what does that mean? Are we going to have additional deadlines after that? It seems like it. They're going to assess it. Can't guarantee anything, but it looks like it's possible. Oh, I'm not going to wait till the very last minute for sure, but at some point I'm going to file this within that 30 days. And if the injunction happens after that, it happens. You know, it is what it is. Vast majority of companies reporting the new deadline to file an initial updated and or corrected BOI report is now March 21st, 2025. FinCEN will provide an update before then of any further modification of this deadline. See, they're probably going to have some kind of a modification. They're probably going to push it back, but it can't guarantee anything. Recognizing that reporting companies may need additional time. Reporting companies that were previously given a reporting deadline later than the March 21st deadline. Some people were given a deadline of April 2025. You still have that deadline, follow the April deadline. So some people were just given a deadline and extension, maybe like 6 months or something for disaster relief, be a place in the country with a flood or something like that. They got their deadline pushed back anyways, which is, you know, or maybe the California fire situation. There might be disaster relief where people are dealing with disasters that are affecting their real estate. So these people who are in this National Small Business Association are not currently required to report. Yeah, if you're part of those people, you're still in the same boat. You still don't have to apply. You really can go to the FinCEN website and get it done yourself. If you want to see some true crime videos, I'll go ahead and put some over my shoulder. Thanks for watching and make sure to subscribe.